Hello learners, welcome to Manifested Publishers. My name is Celestine Wandabusi. Today I'm introducing you to Management Accounting, September 2021 sitting. The main objective is to solve all the questions, but we'll be handling one question at a time. So I want to give some instructions for that case. I expect you to carry your calculator so that you fully participate in the class. So when we'll be solving questions, I hope you to participate. And then I'm also instructing you that you have writing materials. Ensure that you are writing as you fully participate in this class. So the paper normally consists of 5 questions, and you are supposed to do them all. Each question carries marks, and they are always allocated and written below each paper. So the instruction is answer all questions. Marks allocated to each question are shown at the end of the question. Show all your workings. So when we'll be solving each question, we have to show all our workings. And since you are candidates, follow the way we'll do it, so that we'll be able to pass your exams. So we are beginning with question number 1. And I'll just read part A of question number 1. Identify and explain 4 types of costs that are irrelevant for decision making. Identify and explain 4 types of costs that are irrelevant for decision making. Costs that are irrelevant for decision making are those costs that cannot be used in making decisions. And so I'll mention some of these costs, and one of them is a sunk cost. So A, we have types of irrelevant costs. So I'll mention them and then I'll explain. Roman 1, we have sunk costs. Roman 2, we have committed costs. Roman 3, we have non-cash expenses. And 4, we have fixed overheads. All these are irrelevant costs. So a sunk cost is a cost that has already been incurred, and therefore it cannot be changed. And therefore it is normally irrelevant in decision making. A cost that cannot be changed cannot be used in making any decisions. And a good example of a sunk cost is the cost that was used for purchasing something like a motor vehicle in an organization. This cost is already incurred, and therefore it will not be changed. And then we have committed costs. Committed costs are future costs that cannot be altered. And a good example of a committed cost is an insurance premium. In this case, you will not be able to change it, and again, it will not be relevant in decision making. We also have a non-cash expense. Non-cash expenses are those expenses that do not include cash transactions. And a good example is depreciation and amortization. They are also irrelevant in decision making. Then fixed costs are those costs that tend to remain unchanged. Especially in the short run, they cannot be changed. And therefore, when we are making decisions, they will not be changed and they cannot be involved in decision making. So those are the main types of costs that are irrelevant in decision making. And then we move on to question 1, part B. Part B of question number 1. We are told that Mayton Limited reported the following production costs for the 12-month period from 1st January 2020 to December 2020. So we've been given the period. We have total production cost, which is in shillings, and we have the level of activity in units produced. So the period is ranging from January to December, and then we've been given data on total production cost and the level of activity. So we are required, part 1, using linear regression, establish the production function in the form of y equals a plus bx. So in regression analysis, we normally seek to establish the relationship between variables that we have been given. And the main important part of this question that will help you answer it effectively is for you to be able to determine the variables. We normally have 2 variables in linear regression. And one is normally an independent variable and the other one is a dependent variable. So what is an independent variable? It is a variable which lays the foundation for the estimation of the other. And the other variable in this case is the dependent variable. And the dependent variable is that which is being estimated. So like we've been given the total production cost and we have the level of activity. So the question is, which is the independent variable and which is the dependent variable? So the first step you need to understand is determine the variables. And therefore, we are to identify the x, which is representing the independent, and the y, which is representing the dependent. So according to what we have, level of activity will be our independent variable. Why independent variable? Because it's acting as a cost driver, and a cost driver is an activity that causes a cost to be incurred, and so it is the one that is causing total cost to be incurred. So total production cost in this case will be our y variable. So once you've determined that, we now apply the formula, and our main intention is to be able to know the value of a and the value of b in this function y equals a plus bx. So how do we determine the values of a and b? We are normally given the formula, and this is the formula. Sum of y equals NA plus B sum of x. So this will be our equation 1 because it's normally a simultaneous equation, and sum of xy equals A summation x plus B summation x squared. This becomes our equation 2. So remember, we want to find the values of A and the values of B. N in this case is simply referring to number of observations or number of items that we have. Y is our dependent variable and X is our independent variable. So we have already been given the values of X and Y, and therefore we will now substitute what we have in our formula so that we use this formula to find the values of A and B. So how do we do this? This is the format we use. We'll have it in the in the table format. So we can have X. I think because of space, we can use the other side. So we'll have our table this side. So we'll have X, we'll have Y, we'll have x squared, and then we'll have xy. So we've already been given the values of x, which is the level of activity, and so we simply write the figures. So we'll have 30, 22, 33, 39, 41, 24, 29, 32, 38, 15, 45, and 35. And then we write the corresponding values now for Y, which is total production cost. So the corresponding figure for that is 460. We have 300, 480, 550, 570, 310, 410, 455, 530, 250, 700, and 490. So we want to find the values for x squared. To calculate x squared, we are squaring the values of x. So our first value is 30, and therefore x squared will simply be 30 squared. So when you calculate 30 squared, 30 squared will give you 900. Then we calculate 22 squared, which will give us 484. Then 33 squared, this will give us 1089. 39 squared will give us 1521. Then we have 41 squared. This will give us 1681. Then 24 squared, which will give us 576. 29 squared will give us 841. 32 squared will give us 1024. Then 38 squared will give us 1444. 15 squared will give us 225. 45 squared will give us 2025. And then 35 squared will give us 1225. So that will be our x squared. And then we calculate xy. Xy is where we are simply multiplying the values of x and the values of y. So for our first one, we are simply taking 30 multiplied by 460. And this will give you 13,800. Then the second one is 22 multiplied by 300, which will give us 6,600. Then 33 multiplied by 480. This will give us 15,840. The next one is 39 multiplied by 550, and this will give us 21,450. Then we have 41 multiplied by 570. This will give us 23,370. 24. That's the next one times 310. This will give us 7,440. Then the next one is 29 multiplied by 410. This will give us 11,890. Sorry, 11,890. Then we have 32 multiplied by 455. So 32 multiplied by 455 will give us 14,560. Then next is 38 multiplied by 530, which will give us 20,140. The next one is 15 times 250. This will give us 3,750. Then 45 multiplied by 700 will give us 31,500. And the last one is 35 multiplied by 490, which will give us 17,150. So once we have calculated the values of x squared and xy, we are using the formula. We are to find the sum of y. We find the sum of xy, sum of x, and sum of x squared. So we are to get the sum of all this. And sum simply means we are adding the values, beginning with the x column. So we have 30 plus 22 plus 33, 33 plus 39 plus 41 plus 24 plus 29 plus 32 plus 38 plus 15 plus 45 plus 35, and the total is 383. Then we do the same for y column. We add the values. So 460 plus 300 plus 480 plus 550 plus 570 plus 310 plus 410 plus 455 plus 530 plus 250 plus 700 plus 490. This will give us 5,505. We calculate the sum of x squared. So 900 plus 484 plus 1089 plus 1521 plus 1681 plus 576 plus 841 plus 1024 plus 1444 225 plus 2025 plus 1225. So this will give us 13,035. And then lastly, we calculate the xy. 13,800 plus 6,600 plus 15,840 plus 21,450 plus 23,370 plus 74,40 plus 11,890 plus 14,560 plus 21,40 plus 37,50 31,500 plus 17,150. This will give us 187,490. So from here, we now apply the formula. Sum of y equals NA plus B sum of x. So our sum of y is 5,505. This will be equal to, n is referring to the number of observations. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So our n is 12. So we'll have 12a plus sum of x, which is 383b. And so this becomes our first equation. And then we have sum of x. In the second line of the formula, sum of x y is 187,490. This will be equal to sum of x is 383a plus sum of x squared is 13,035, and this becomes, that 13,035b, and this will form our equation number 2. So once we have substituted the figures in our formula, we now solve the equation simultaneously. So when we are solving our equation simultaneously, what we normally do is we just use the elimination method. And the elimination method is where we are either eliminating A or we are eliminating B. So because A has lower figures, we can eliminate A. How do we eliminate A? I think the best way to do it, especially in your exams, is just to cross multiply. We want to make figures at A equal so that when we subtract, we make this A 0. So we take 383 and you multiply you multiply it by the first line. 383 multiplied by the first line, and take 12 and multiply it by the second line. So this will help you to have equal values at A, and the intention is to eliminate A. So when we do this, this is affecting all the values in this line. So we are taking 383 and we are multiplying by 5,505. This will give us 2,108,415, which should equal 383 times 12. This will be 4,056 A plus 383 squared will give us 146,689B. And then we do the same with the second line. We take 12, we multiply by 187,490, which will give us 2,249,880, which will equal 383 times 12. That will give us 4,596A plus 12 multiplied by 13,035. This will give us 156,420B. So from here we simply subtract, and when we subtract, this is what we will get. So we have 2,108,415 minus 2,249,880. This will give us negative 141,465. So this will be, we've eliminated A, and that A is now a 0. So we subtract the B, 146,689 minus 156,420, which will give us negative 9731B. So once we do this, our intention is to find the value of B. So to find the value of B, we are dividing both sides by 9,731. And therefore we'll have negative 141,465 divided by 9,731, which will equal to negative 9,731B, and we divide by negative 9,731. So when you solve this, you will find that B equals B will be equal to 14.54, and that is our B value. And from there we can now find A. So how do we calculate the value of A? To calculate the value of A, we are simply using our value B, which is 14.54, and substituting it into our equation so that we find the value of A. So since 5,000 had smaller figures, we can use that for substitution. So we have 5,505 equals 12A plus 383B. We want to substitute our B, which we've already calculated, and therefore we'll have 5,505 equal to 2A plus 383, and our B is 14.54. Now do the calculation. So we will have 5,505 equals 12A plus, when you take 383 times 14.54, you will get 5,568.82. So from here we select the like terms. So we'll have 12A equals 568.82 minus 505. So 12A will be equal to will be equal to 63.82, and then from there we divide 12 on both sides so that we find the value of A. So we are dividing this by 12, and then A will be equal to 5.31. We round it off, 32. So this will be the value for A. So the question required us to use linear regression to establish the production function in the form of y equals A plus bx. So to establish this equation, we already have the values of A and B, and you simply substitute the values into this function. So we'll have y equals, our A is 5.32 plus our B is 14.54x, and this will have answered part 1 of that question. So we now move on to part 2 of our question. So we were told in part 2 that from the equation in B1 above, estimate the production cost that will be incurred on 50 units. So what this statement is referring to is, we are simply to find y when x equals 50 units. So remember, our independent variable was the level of activity, which was in units, and that's normally abbreviated by x. So we are finding y when x is 50 units. So to do that, we are simply using this function that we've established, y equals 5.32 plus 14.54. So if x is 50 units, so we substitute that in that equation. And from here we can find the value of y. So when you calculate, we'll have 5.32 plus 14.54 multiplied by 50. So y will be equal to 5.32 plus 727, which is 732 shillings 0.32. So it is in shillings because y represented the total production cost, which was in shillings. And that is how you are to answer part 2 of that question. So we move on to part 3 of our question. And the question is, state any 2 advantages of regression method of cost estimation. Advantages. So it is in shillings. And we now move on to answering part 3 of our question. So part 3 states that state any 2 advantages of regression method of cost estimation. 2 advantages of regression method. So advantages of regression method. So the advantages will include, number 1, it applies mathematical techniques. 2, it is non-subjective. 3, it uses all data points. And even 4, it has statistical vigor. So I can explain. So it applies mathematical techniques. That simply means it cannot be influenced by any analyst. And anytime we have more than one analyst, in part 2 we are saying that it is non-subjective. They will always come up with the same answer. And I have said that if we are to compare regression analysis with account analysis, in account analysis, the answer is normally based on the judgment of the accountant, especially when we are separating mixed cost either as variable or fixed cost. Like what I may consider, or what is a fixed cost in one organization may be a mixed cost in another different organization. And so when we separate, you will realize that one fixed cost in one organization may not equally be the same as another one in another organization. So we say in that case it is subjective and not objective. But regression analysis is non-subjective, meaning it will always give the same answer even when we have several analysts using it. Then it uses all data points. We include all the data that we have been provided with. Like in high-low method, we only pick 2 points, high and low. Those are the points we use, but in regression analysis, we are including all points, which makes it an advantage. And then it has statistical vigor, meaning we can be able to measure the size of the error, so long as we can be able to come up with the right probability that can help us in doing that. And those are the advantages of regression analysis. So that brings us to the end of our question number 1.